your crews go to the space station for it may be only a day to get up there, but they're there for quite a while, as I understand. And so talk us through the stresses that are involved there, not only the physical stress of being an astronaut, but the mental and emotional stresses of being isolated for so long.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier, how quick can you get to the space station? So you were describing a 4-orbit rendezvous. So that's what we call it, a 4-orbit rendezvous. And actually, if you did 4 orbits around the Earth, it would take a lot longer. It only takes them about 6.5 hours to get to the space station, 4-orbit rendezvous. We used to do 34. So they were in their, tiny spaceship traveling to the space station for much longer. So when you consider the stressors, when I talk a lot with the teams, some of the folks that you guys have mentioned, those of us on the ground, right, we're not going into the burning building, right? Those are our astronauts, our crews that we're responsible for. And so there's a lot of analogies you can draw to, you are putting your, away team, your remote team in danger, basically, by letting them launch on a rocket in a spaceship and fly through space. And so from the ground, that has its own set of stressors because you've tried to do all the work. And then when it's go time, there's not a lot you can do, certainly from a launch standpoint. Now, we have the ability to command the spaceships and all kinds of contingencies, but there's, some part of it that you're not there. So what we deal with on the ground in terms of stressors is a little bit different than what the astronauts deal with. They obviously, like you said, are in isolation. They typically stay on the space station for 6 months as a standard rotation. We have done up to a year. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less, but the average is about 6 months. And so, they're away from their families, isolated up there doing work. And so that's a different kind of stress than being responsible for them, but getting to go home, every night and see your family and sleep in your bed. And so we work really hard actually to understand each other's perspective of the different stressors that we have so that we make a good team, between us.
I'm really curious to dig in on that point, particularly around both understanding points of view or different stresses within the team, because there is obviously some benefit in that, but particularly in terms of once you understand what stresses an astronaut goes through, both in getting there, but also in staying there and still operating in what is a very dangerous environment for 6 months. It's not like you go into a building and you get out, and then you get to go home. It's go there and it's danger every day. What do you do in terms of your training? And this is probably, Coleman, you can speak to this after Holly, but how do you, as the leader of the team, prepare people to go there and then support them? What do you actually put in as a system, or is there resilience training? I don't even know where you start.
Well, you start with the basics, right? Which is relationship building. And a lot of it comes back to trust, right? So when we do what we call flight readiness, right? So for every mission, we do a flight readiness review where, all of the leadership gets together and says, hey, we understand the risk. There's always risk. It's space flight, right? So you can't get to zero risk, but we understand it and we judge it to be safe enough to allow our people, our astronauts, to fly. So you go back to building relationships, right? If we come out of those discussions, all of the technical work to look at things like parachutes and propulsion systems and command systems and guidance and navigation, and we say, yeah, we think we're good to go, they need to trust us, right? That we have done all of the right work. And conversely, we need to trust them. So it starts a lot with you get assigned to a crew that you're going to be as a flight director, paired with on a mission, and you travel with them. But typically you'll travel some with them to get to know them personally. Sometimes we do things like, outdoor leadership, the NOLS type stuff. Not always, but sometimes they travel all over the world to do their training for the International Space Station. And so there's a lot of participating in that. Then there's the sort of stress, the relationships under stress, right? Where you train all of the emergency scenarios. On the space station, we have 3 big ones, like fire, rapid depress, like you lose your air, and then ammonia, because our thermal systems use ammonia. All of those can be catastrophic. And so we train those quite a bit. The crews actually, they crew complements. They don't all always go up together and come down together. They switch out maybe in the middle. Well, again, a lot of analogies with a lot of the other teams that Preston works with. And so they try to train with all of the different combinations so that they know who is playing which role, how quick they can respond, the communication. And really, we do lots and lots and lots of simulations. Like we practice a lot. And that is, sitting in a room, mission control, you've got a computer that pretends it's the space station or whichever vehicle, the moon vehicle, Orion, for Artemis, and you practice. And people break things. And sometimes in the sims, the crew will die and you have to go through those things in your head to where you build up some, resiliency as well as the technical knowledge for what to do. So those are kind of 3 highlights.